FM 94.9.
Hey, it's Woodsy from Sunset Sessions, and it's not every day you get to meet somebody that pretty much wrote the soundtrack to your life, but I get to today. Scott Weiland, it's an honor.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for taking the time. Before we dive into music, I'm a huge Notre Dame football fan, too. My dad played there. I know you are as well. You've been following the boys the last few years?
Yeah, and real excited. I know there's some competition at quarterback.
Yeah, finally, right?
Yeah, and I think Golson will win out. I think his upside is incredible.
Well, getting us to the dance.
Yeah.
Wow, such a bummer of a game.
And the second half of his season was
amazing,
superb.
Do you make it to any games ever?
I go to one a year.
One a year, I do too.
Yeah, I go out there.
Up to South Bend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to school. I couldn't get into ND, so I went to Holy Cross for 2 years. My dad played football at ND too.
Yeah,
so.
my dad did too. He was a walk-on.
Mine too. What year did you graduate?
It's 58 or 59.
Okay, mine was a little bit younger, but man, it's so good to meet you, and I feel like I've grown up with you. I mean, in your music, and just take my chance to say what a pleasure it is, and so good to see you here. And you got a new band, the Wildabouts. How'd you meet these fellas?
Actually, I've known them for quite some time. They were the dudes that played on my last solo album, and
Happy and Galoshes,
yeah,
which is a great record.
Thank you. And that was sort of sonically an extension. The next place to go from 12-Bar Blues. They're both kind of our artistic adventures,
for sure.
And because I needed that, being in two big rock bands,
Giant
STP
rock bands.
and Velvet Revolver,
Yep.
and so I needed to kind of do like my thing on a different scale, and it was a lot of fun. But we all of a sudden, it started with a year ago. We went up to my cabin in Washington, and we started writing songs, and it was just me and Tommy Blackie. He's our bass player.
Yep.
And Jeremy Brown is our lead guitar player. And we also had, and Danny, who didn't come up to the cabin, is our drummer, and then we had Doug Greon was the multi-instrumentalist. We all came to the same agreement that we wanted to be a four-piece. We needed more space between the beats, more space between the notes.
Sure.
And that eventually, although I had been friends with Doug for years, we built the studio together and produced a lot of stuff together. I had to call him up and tell him that, we made a big decision, and I'm sorry to tell you, but we're going to go on as a four-piece.
Right.
And it really changed our sound. We had an idea of what we wanted to go for because all of us have extremely similar taste in music. So we can reference stuff and we know what
we want it to sound like
about.
This, and
how the bass is in
the
song,
awesome.
But Love and Rockets, kind of like that kind of thing, and so it was really. It just started off, and we were really, when we dove into it, which was about the time that Lucas became our manager at the Ann Group, we really focused on making the album. We're halfway through it right now.
Awesome.
It's got a different sound. It's rock and roll, but it's like indie rock and roll. It's got that rough, just noisy garage kind of sound,
which there's not a lot of these days coming out new. I mean, if you put out Core today, how would it do? You know what I'm saying? Is there a place for that anymore?
I don't think if you put out like Core produced the way it was,
right.
Or Alice in Chains, or except for Nirvana. Nirvana is one band that I think that
the way right through.
Yeah, that would still stand the test of time as far as their first album.
Yeah.
It's just, it tears. It's rough. And when we hired our producer Rick Parker, who's done the Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, a couple albums from them, and a bunch of other great stuff. He understood where we were going and what we wanted, and he's also an amazing engineer, and we're trying to verbalize like what we wanted our stuff to sound like instead of big, Mesa Boogie, like chunk, chunk, chunk.
Right.
It's a bunch of vintage fuzz boxes,
Killer.
And just wall of sound.
Killer.
And, it's like octave underneath it to like boost that, and riffs that are not like typical riffs.
Right.
And
your lyrics over them.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
yeah,
I
it's
can't.
cool.
It's coming out soon.
It's coming out in the first part of November. Yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait, man.
Christmas.
Thanks so much for your time. I know you're busy. You got a million things to do. Can we get a couple pics and stuff?
Yeah, and I could say this also, if you're still recording. The album we've got a name for it, and it is called Blaster.
Blaster.
Yeah.
I love it. Where'd that come from?
Well, the art we haven't shown yet, so you'll see.
We'll know.
It's very cool.
We'll know
very
when
cool.
we see
Very
it.
cool.
Scott Weiland, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Pleasure to meet you.
Hi, this is Scott Weiland from Scott Weiland and the Wildabouts, and you are listening to FM 94.9. It's about the music.